Hi, my name's Eric Woolbrook, and I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. I am so happy to be here, but I'm even happier y'all are here, because y'all are like my people. Y'all understand that crazy stuff that went through my head for decade after decade after decade. And when I tell you about it, y'all don't judge me. And when it still crops up in my head, y'all are there for me. Them normal people out there don't get us. And I know we're only 7% of the population, but boy, that is one minority I am glad to be part of, because my life would be totally different if it wasn't. Now I'm going to start off by apologizing, because I'm going to screw something up somewhere along the way. But I'm just a coon ass with 3 brain cells left, and one of them naps an awful lot. So if I owe you an amends, come see me after the meeting, all right? I'm a coon ass. I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana.
We're sorry.
Yeah, well, if you saw that game Thursday night, I'd be sorry too. My alcoholic tendencies kind of reared their heads somewhere around the time that I was 7 or 8 years old, because that's when I became the master manipulator. And there was a little bit of lying going on back then too. Now, the cheating and stealing stuff didn't happen until I was 14 or 15, but I had my first drink when I was 11 years old. By the time I was 13, I was drinking every single day. New Orleans is a tough place to grow up when you got eye disease. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can go into any gas station and buy Maker's Mark. Yep. Wasn't too hard at the beginning. I'd steal it from my parents, go over to my friend's house, steal it from them. I'd volunteer to do chores at my neighbors' houses so I could go in and steal it from them. It was New Orleans, man. The drinking age was 18 when I was growing up, so by the time I was 14 or 15, I could buy it for myself, and prior to that, you could always find somebody who was going to buy it for you. I remember being 13 years old, walking into the Katz and Bestoff drugstore and buying a plastic flask. They never asked me why I was buying it, but it was easier I get somebody to buy a bottle. It's easier to hide that than to hide a bottle, you know. And God rest my parents' souls, they were wonderful people, but they were clueless. They had no idea. I cannot diagnose anybody but myself, but I strongly think my father was what the big book calls the heavy drinker. You know, because given sufficient reason, he was able to stop. Not my case. So I went off to college at LSU. Go Tigers. Yes, we beat Ole Miss today. That is true. And it was the first time I went to school and realized I didn't have to go to class. Nobody was making me go to class. So I lived off of a diet of Bud Light and Kraft macaroni and cheese. Went to class, take exams, skirted through, was it, got out. Went to work as a financial institution consultant. Perfect job for me. I got to go out to lunch almost every day with people. And that meant I could drink at lunch and nobody said anything. So then work would be over, I'd go next door to the Bon Ton and I'd drink some more, I'd drive home, and then I'd drink till I passed out, get up in the morning, start it all over again. Early on, I had to drink every day, but I didn't have to drink as soon as I woke up. That was a scary thing, so I knew I didn't have any trouble, because that wasn't happening. Parts of my life started getting very, how would you say, unmanageable. So I decided what I needed to do was stop being a financial institution consultant, pack up, move to Tennessee, go get my master's at the University of South Sewanee and become an Episcopal priest. That's what I was going to do. Yeah. I was about 11 weeks in when I realized that was not the ticket for me. So I was stuck. There I was in Tennessee. Had a buddy that had graduated from Sewanee I'd grown up with in New Orleans. He had a plant nursery. So he said, man, why don't you come work for me? You're good with numbers. I can grow plants. We're going to take over the world. I'm like, that's all I need to hear. So I moved to Gallatin, Tennessee. Very first customer I ever waited on, I'm married. Well, first we lived together for about 2 years prior to that, because I got to do things in the proper order. And we got married, and let's just suffice it to say that the entire time that we were living together, I did my best to hide my alcoholism. She told me I had to stop drinking liquor. It was not good for me, so I'm in Tennessee. The gas stations don't sell stuff, so I made good friends with the guy that had the liquor store. So I'd buy wine by the case. He'd keep it in his cooler for me, and I'd just walk into the liquor store, grab a brown paper bag, walk in the cooler, grab me a couple, walk back out. She didn't know. To the evening, I almost burned the house down. I was trying to season a cast iron skillet. Left it in the oven at 500 degrees while I passed out, and she came home, and there was smoke everywhere. And so she told me I had a problem. I had to do something. We had gotten married in November of '93. This is January of 1994. And so she said, I've already found out. There's a group of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's where you need to go. Boy, that was not true at all. I went to this place, and I went every day for 3 years. Why? Because I could be away from her for 3 hours. The hour before the meeting, the hour of the meeting, and the hour after the meeting. Then I get back home and she could nag me some more. But I walked into this AA group for 3 years. I went. And all they told me to do was not to drink and to come to meetings. That sucks.
Yeah.
And anybody gonna tell you you cannot, it's impossible for you to not to drink on your own willpower, that's a lie. I did that for 15 years, 3 months, and 4 days, and they're the most miserable 15 years of my life. Of course, my ex-wife now, she's now my ex-wife, she thought things were okay. I mean, I stopped drinking every night. I'd come home from work, and she'd meet me at the door, and she'd hug me, and she'd kiss me, and I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, because we didn't do that before. Maybe that's something that is not drinking. After 4 or 5 years, she stopped doing it. I got my lip out and I got butt hurt. And she said, what's wrong with you? I was like, like the last 3 or 4 days you hadn't met me at the door. And she said, well, I don't think you're drinking now. All she was doing was kissing me to see if I had alcohol on my breath. Yeah. Fun times, fun times. But about another 2 years went by, and I realized I'm an alcoholic. The only medicine I had in my life was alcohol. You have taken my medicine away from me. I was still manipulative, a liar, a cheat, and a control freak. And I guess 6 years in was the first time she said to me, I wish you'd just start drinking again. At least I could deal with you then. And I can think of 3 times she said that to me. So we had this horrible relationship. We stayed married for 18 years. Horrible relationship. I went on the road with work. Fast forward, I'm in back in New Orleans, running a job to rebuild the Hyatt Hotel that's attached to the Superdome. I'd go home every 2 weeks for the weekend. Things were okay, not great, but they were okay. She liked the paychecks that were getting directly deposited into our account. She didn't have to see me for, 10 of 14 days. And I got back in April of 2009. I'm working, and my mother calls me. She lived across the lake in Covington. She said, I got some mail for you at my house. I'm like, mail for me at your house? Yeah. I said, don't worry about it. She said, well, it says it's from the Tennessee Department of Child Welfare. And I'm like, what? So I went over there that evening, picked up a piece of mail, opened it up. Well, I had been divorced for over a month and a half and didn't even know it. And it was child support telling me I had to pay them $898 a month. I had been home twice. My ex-wife was a smart woman. She wasn't going to tell me to my face. I left my mother's house and I had to get back to downtown New Orleans to the hotel I was staying in. I don't know if any of you all have ever heard of the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, but it's the longest continuous bridge in the world. It's 24.1 miles long. But right at the foot of that causeway, there's a Shell station. So I went in and I bought a fifth of Maker's Mark. I hadn't drank 15 years, 3 months and 4 days. Bought a fifth of Maker's Mark. Before I hit mile marker 11, it was gone. I got off that causeway, and right there at Esplanade and Causeway Boulevards, an Exxon station. Bought another fifth of Maker's Mark. By the time I got to downtown, it was gone. Went to my hotel room, changed my shirt, went to the bar and sat there for another 3.5 hours. I hadn't drank in 15 years, but my body still needed all of that same amount of alcohol to get me to the place I needed to be. Stayed in New Orleans and watched my life spiral out of control. Ended up being a guest on a couple of occasions behind the Gray Bar Hotel, courtesy of the state of Louisiana. Got out, had no hope. I couldn't see the forest for the trees. I had no hope. There was no way to get out of this. So I stopped drinking one night about 10 o'clock. Got up 7 o'clock the next morning. I lived in a shotgun double that was built in the 1800s. The walls are about that thick. I had this young girl that lived in the unit next to mine, and I knew she was a waitress. I knew she was going to do the breakfast and lunch shift. So I knew she'd be gone. So I had to do this with as close to a sober mind as I possibly could. I hadn't drank now for 10 hours. So I got up, stood in my living room, pulled out a buck knife, slit my throat, and hit the floor. Well, thank goodness, I guess, that those walls are so thin. She didn't go to work. She heard me hit the floor. She came barging into my apartment. Put a towel around my neck, dialed 911. Put 17 staples in my throat right here. That led to, after I got out of the hospital, I had to do a little stint in jail because suicide, even attempted suicide in Louisiana, is illegal. So they had to call the police, and then they found out there was a warrant for my arrest, and I had to go spend a little time in there. So I was released from there to, it was on Thanksgiving Day. They just called me up, told me I could leave. I had nowhere to go. Oh, where am I going to go? So I talked to one of the guards, and he told me, man, I think what you need to do is you need to go down here to this place over by Faith Bible Church. They got a program for people like you. So how much is it going to cost? I don't have any money. They're not going to cost you a thing. So I walked down there, went and talked to him. I went and got in this program. This was a 12-month-long faith-based program, and they're going to cure me of my addiction, and I'm going to be all better. I did my 12 months. We had a little graduation ceremony. They had little programs and everything. My picture was on the front. 12 months I'm in this place. Now notice, it was faith-based. There wasn't a word about 12 steps, right? Faith-based. So I lasted right under 90 days. Because as soon as I got out, all I needed was a job and a relationship, because all the previous jobs and relationships I had were wonderful. They all worked really well, and that solved all my problems. So I tried to kill myself again. Slit my wrist. guy walked in and found me in the tub. Called the ambulance. They didn't put me in the Gray Bar Hotel that time. They just put me in one of those places that the state owns. It's called an asylum. 17 days. It was nice, though. They gave us cigarettes 4 times a day. They provided them, too, but they wouldn't give us the lighter. They had to light them for you. I was scared to death. 17 days later, and they gave the pills. Man, they gave me some pills. I had a lot of pills. There were 12 different prescriptions I took for anti-anxiety medication, serotonin boosters, antidepressant medication. I had to have them pills. So I'm like, where y'all gonna send me? I ain't got no place to go. So they sent me to another faith-based program in North Louisiana. They were kind enough to provide transportation. This one was 9 months long. Once again, I did absolutely everything they said, but this place, they cautioned you when you came in. If you said the words 12 steps, they were going to give you 15 minutes to pack your stuff and leave. I never said 12 steps. Well, I knew 12 steps didn't work because I had spent all that time in AA before, right? Going to meetings and not drinking. I wasn't going to say nothing about 12 steps. Y'all fix me. That's what I need. I need to be fixed. Went through that. We had another little graduation ceremony. That was good too, but all 3 of us had our pictures up there, big pictures. It was nice. Yeah. 3 months later, there I am. Got a guy coming to pick me up, take me to church. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't make it from here to where Terry's sitting. I called him that evening. And I said, man, I need some help. So I figured he'd take me to detox, right? He come pick me up the next day. It was on January 26th. He come to pick me up at 10 o'clock in the morning. I had my last drink at 9:58. So I figured he's taking me to detox. I left. I had an apartment at that time because I had gotten a job. I'd just gotten fired from it, but because they found me passed out in a room. But that's beside the point. I knew I was coming back. I couldn't afford Maker's Mark anymore. I had that stuff in that half gallon that's plastic and it just says the word vodka on it. I had that. But there was only about that much gone. It was right below the neck. And I left my cup right next to it on the counter because I was coming back for it. So man, he starts heading out of Shreveport and I'm like, where are we going? He said, you got an appointment. I said, I got an appointment? He said, yeah, Longview, Texas. What the hell I do? I ain't going to Texas. Well, you're just going to an appointment, going to go talk to this man. They're going to interview you. I said, okay. So I went there and I met with this guy at the Highway 80 Rescue Mission in Longview. And he said to me, yeah, it sounds like you got a problem. You think you need to go to the hospital right now? I said, I don't need to go to the hospital. I'm fine. Now, it's only 2.5 hours since I've had my last drink, okay? I didn't see anything wrong with me. He did. He said, well, okay, are you willing to do whatever it takes? Sure, yeah, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm sure I'm not the only one that sat in his office and told him that lie. So I stayed. I ended up giving away my apartment because I wasn't there. And I couldn't use the phone for 42 days, so I couldn't even call anybody. But I was there all of 14 hours when the ambulance came and picked me up, and they brought me to the hospital in Longview. And I was in the hospital for 6 days, detoxing off of nothing but alcohol, getting 2 milligrams of Ativan every hour. I know what alcohol poisoning is. I about died. So they brought me back. Actually, they didn't bring me back. They gave me a bus ticket from the hospital. I didn't even know who to call at the place I was staying at. I hadn't been there long enough to learn anybody's name. So I took a bus and I found my way to this homeless shelter. And walked in and like, who are you? I said, well, I have a bed. Oh, we about to give that away. I stayed there for 42 days and then they said, do you have any ties to Longview? I'm like, no. Well, we're opening up a place in Tyler. I want you to be one of the people that goes to Tyler. Well, there's 4 of us that came over from Longview to Tyler. And I wasn't in Tyler 3 days when the guy that's running the program says to me, all right, everybody get in the van. We're going to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And I said, the hell I am. If I got to go, I'll sit in the van. No, it's a big group. Just go in there and sit. You sit on your hands if you want. I sat there the entire time and watched the clock on the wall. No clue what anybody said. They went around the room for everybody to give their name and their sobriety date. After the meeting was over, I couldn't even remember my name. I'll be daggum. 4 days later, they tell us we got to go again. Well, I made it through it. Nobody gonna call on me. I will never forget Mary Nell calling on me. What would you like to say? I knew it didn't work. And I knew I was smarter than everybody in the damn room. And I was already mad at all of them because when I walked in the room, they were laughing. They didn't know how sick I was. But I didn't know what anybody was talking about, what they were saying, so I just vomited some kind of nonsense out. And that was the turning point for me. Because then I said, if you're going to make me come back, I'm going to listen to what people say so I can prove you wrong. I know this crap does not work. I'm going to prove it to you. So we got there real early at that next meeting. I wasn't happy about that either. And I sat in that room and I listened to all these old people laughing and carrying on and cutting up, and I'm like, they just don't have a clue how sick I am. I don't know what their problem is. So I listened. And I heard a guy named Barry O share his story. He shared, and I'm listening, and I'm like, man, wow. I kind of like what he had to say. Can't tell you what anybody said or who else shared at that meeting. I can tell you people who were at that meeting. The next person that shared was Terry. And I'm like, man, that dude might even be sicker than me. Might be something to this, hang on. Well, there went my alcoholic mind. To hell with that, both them people got over 20 years. I got 20 years to sit around and do this stuff before I can laugh. There ain't no way. This ain't for me. Went back 3 or 4 more times, and I was like, I'd listen, but I didn't want to hear anything they said. And I'll never forget it. Terry was chairing a meeting at Alpha. And right towards the end, it's getting near the top of the hour. And we had a guy that was from our group that was, I don't know, he spent 10, 12 minutes sharing some really off-the-wall stuff that we've all heard in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous before. And Terry made a vital mistake. So has anybody got a burning desire? I mean, we're right at the top of that. Burning desire and really wants to share? Has anything they have to get off their chest? And I raised my hand, and he looked at me and he rolled his eyes like, oh, crud, I cannot believe. Another one of them guys from that homeless place going to be talking. I stood up. One time in my life I think I've ever stood up to share it in AA meeting. I stood up and said, I need help. I need help. I didn't drink for 15 years and my life was miserable, and I drank and my life was miserable, and I don't know what the hell to do. I don't know if any of this works, but I got to have some help. That was the turning point for me. I got help. I got somebody that had been there before me that knew these 12 spiritual principles that could take me by the hand and lead me down through them. Now, I was really sick, so I also had another guy that was helping me too because I had to be tag team. But I wasn't bought in. It's very important to realize I was not bought in at this time. There had to be something to it, but I didn't really think it necessarily was going to work. So I made a deal. I'm going to do everything you tell me to the best of my ability just so I can prove you wrong and laugh in your face. I didn't have an ego or anything, right? None whatsoever. And I did. I did everything I was told to do. And after I did my first fifth step, one Saturday afternoon, somewhere between doing that fifth step and getting back to Triumph Village and doing 6 and 7, something changed. Something in my life changed. The next morning was Sunday morning. I had to get up and go to church where I was serving, and I went to go to the mirror to shave my cheeks. And it was the first time, and I can't tell you how long I remember that I didn't kind of throw open my mouth a little bit when I looked at myself in the mirror. Something changed. That was the beginning. But then came the work. Then came the work. For me, this program only works if I live it. I only got 3 brain cells. So, y'all got 12 principles. And that's too much for me. So, I trust God, I keep my house clean, the best of my ability, and I help others. That's it. I can get those 12 and knock them down into 3 from the Clarence Snyder, Dr. Bob Akron group, and that works. That works. But helping others doesn't work for me if my house isn't clean, and I can't have my house clean if I don't trust God. So it took me a little while to understand the spiritual side of this program. Now I'm going to tell you straight up. See Kyle sitting right there? His idea of God's different than mine. As is Bobby's, as is Tiffany's, as is Crystal's and Joe's. We all got a different idea of God. If I made you take out a piece of paper and draw what you thought of God, what God looked like to you, I'd draw a roll of duct tape. Duct tape is everywhere. Who doesn't have a roll of duct tape? You tell me what duct tape doesn't fix. That's my God. He's everywhere and he fixes absolutely everything because he started working on me. But the problem was, now in 36 months, I had spent 30 months in long-term recovery program. 12 months and 9 months didn't work. Nothing took. Why? Because there was no action involved on my part. I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait for my God to make me better, and that's it. Well, even our book tells us. Our book tells us. Into action. We have to take these 12 spiritual principles and we have to put them into action. And then they have to be a way of life. It's been my experience that this way of life is so much easier and softer than the way I was living before. I can have the worst day, and the next morning I get up, I'm still okay, because I'm not jonesing trying to figure out how I'm going to get my next drink, and all I got is some coins and a mayonnaise jar sitting on the counter, I don't have to worry about it. Quit making fun of the way I talk to them. It is, and it was drilled in my head from both sides, from Adam and Terry both. You got to do. And what it gave me Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, and there's all sorts of definitions of a spiritual awakening. And my first definition of a spiritual awakening was the fact that my will was superseded by God's will. But I think it's more than that, because we can sit in these rooms. If you've had a spiritual awakening, you can sit in these rooms and tell what's going on with somebody and what's going to end up happening with somebody. So I had to trust God in everything that I did. That was a tall order for me, because I was a control freak. So I just started off trusting Him a little bit more today than I did yesterday. Now, periodically I want to fly fish with stuff. My finances. Well, God, if I just do this, it's going to work out. It's like, I'm like 15 pounds overweight right now. What do I have to worry about finance? I'm obviously eating. I'm not missing a meal. I got a roof over my head. Nobody's turned the power off. Well, the biggest part was the transformation, the rearranging of my mind, where my priorities became totally different. My priorities, for half a century, my priorities were me, money, me, my job, my family, everybody else. My life does not work well like that at all. Without help, it is too much for us, but are we willing to help? Are we willing to do? I know a lot of people sitting in this room right now, and I know a lot of people that give of themselves inordinately. We're all members of a wonderful fellowship. I'm kind of sad because when I started in AA, the AA symbol of the circle with the equilateral triangle, it still had recovery, service, and unity on it. Now it's just a blank triangle. But those are our three legacies. And I know that my recovery is based upon the unity with my fellow alcoholics and those that are alcoholics that have yet to seek help and service. Service to one another and service to the non-alcoholic as well. This way of life means more to me than I can ever express in words. In all honesty, it means more to me than my children, because if it were not for this way of life, I wouldn't have my children back in my life today. They went a decade not knowing whether daddy was alive or dead. This way of life brings me such joy when you can see the miracles in these rooms. When you see that aha moment and that light bulb goes off. But for me, going to meetings and just not drinking is a miserable existence. I introduced myself as a recovered alcoholic. Why? Because that book that I hold so dearly, in the first 164 pages, tells us 17 times that we recover from this disease. I do not want to spend the rest of my life in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous just so I don't drink. The spiritual malady has been rectified. The mental obsession has been relieved. I will always have the physical craving. If I go out and drink right now, Lonnie, make sure you still going in behind the wall, because I'm going to be locked up over there and you come visit. Because I ain't going to stop till I get locked up or I die. I used to say locked up, die, or run out, but I always found a way not to ever run out. I don't know why, but probably because that was the most important thing in my life, was making sure I had something to drink. If you don't have a sponsor, I strongly suggest you get a sponsor. First word of the first step is Terry beating my head from like the third time I ever met him, is we. There's nothing about life that we're supposed to do on our own. There's nothing on about recovery that we're supposed to do on our own. We're a family. I wasn't joking when I said how happy I was to see y'all, because y'all understand me. Y'all don't judge me and y'all don't condemn me. Tiffany talked about having real friends. I never had real friends until I got sober. I had people that I wanted stuff from and they wanted stuff from me, but I didn't have friends. I literally have a phone that I think has over 280 contacts in it that I could call at 2 o'clock in the morning and they would answer. That's crazy. That's crazy. The same people that would give me the shirt off their back. I don't know what was funny about it, Alex, but I'm glad it tickled you. All right, Alex. You're going to have crosstalk from the podium up here. That's not a good thing. We're not going to set a bad example. But I'll also offer this piece of advice that was given to me very early on. To this day, when I go to Alpha, anytime I go to Alpha, 25 minutes into the meeting, I get up and serve coffee. Because I was told to. And I do. There's all sorts of service work besides being our DCM like Crystal is, or sitting on your steering committee of your home group, or sponsoring someone. Chairs need to be set up. When I started in AA, ashtrays needed to be cleaned. Coffee needs to be made. People need rides to meetings. There's all sorts of stuff that we can do. Sometimes all we need to do is listen. Hardest thing in the world for me to do as a drunk is nothing. And sometimes that's what I have to do. But this program has taught me that my life is none of my damn business. It don't belong to me anymore. It doesn't. I was given a reprieve based on the fitness of my spiritual condition. And so my life belongs to my God now, not me. And it makes it even easier and simpler to live that way. It's quiet right now, and all I can hear is the ceiling fans. There was a time in my life that used to drive me absolutely up a wall. Something had to be going on. I'm comfortable in my own skin today. The essence of my being is in my silence. Y'all taught me that. I've learned more about how to live life through Alcoholics Anonymous than I have from any church or the Bible or any self-help seminar I ever went to. And y'all never charged me a penny for it. Because trust me, when I started going to meetings, I didn't have $1 to put in the can. I'm going to leave you with one thought. When you see the new person in the room, bend over backwards to make them feel comfortable. Because the part of my journey at the beginning, when I was going to meetings against my will, that I left out, we drive up to that meeting house, and that van from the homeless place Maybe people out there talking about, oh, here come the homeless people. All the candy gonna be gone. What, are they gonna drink up all the coffee? And I never felt at home. I was very uncomfortable. I was there on a birthday night, and I was sitting the second chair off the front door when this dude comes walking up to me. He just radared on me and walking up to me, and the first words out of his mouth, "You here with that Highway 80 van?" You know, yeah, like, what's it to you? I mean, really? You know, what are you going to say to me now? And all he did was show me love from that moment on. How happy he was that we were there. That I was there. That he could tell me about somebody he knew that worked at the place. And we could bond. I've got a sponsor. I've got friends in the group. But I'm going to tell you, there are going to be so many people. There have been so many people in this fellowship that have touched my lives and helped me on my journey. You know, it really does take a village. It takes a whole group of people. You never know if you're the one that has the right word at the right time. But when that new person's sitting in the room, show them love. I'm not going to tell you who that man was. He's sitting in here and he knows. I love you, Kyle. Me too. That was monumental for me. I finally felt at home. Now, I feel like wherever I go, I can walk into a room of Alcoholics Anonymous and be at home. Because y'all are my people and I love you. Thank y'all very much.